Hey, this is Ryan and Alex, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. This is Coffee Talk number 4, and today we're going to be talking about tamping pressure. Are you actually tamping with 30 pounds, and is that actually a really good standard to follow? Alex, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Haven't had my coffee yet, so it's just morning time here in Vancouver.
Yep, it's afternoon in London, so I think I've had my coffee, but I don't think I've had enough today.
No problem. So yeah, we're talking about tamping pressure today, and we thought it would be a good topic because one of the standards that a lot of people follow and a lot of baristas actually recommend is using 30 pounds of tamping pressure when you're packing in your coffee in your portafilter. And coffee is such a subjective topic, and there's so many different variables and different grind sizes that you can use and different methods of brewing coffee for espresso. So is 30 pounds really a good standard to follow? And some people say it is, and there are tamps that are built that are calibrated actually to 30 pounds to release pressure while you're tamping. So we wanted to just touch base on this topic and get some of the experience that you have, Alex. Have you had any opinion about using 30 pounds of pressure on while tamping coffee?
I think the 30 pounds of pressure, I think it's more of a guideline rather than something that you must do, as in something that you should be dictated to do. I think it's something that, I think it's just coming from the baristas who have experienced that. I think it's sort of like a good number to tell people that that this is how much pressure that you should be tamping. But in my own experience, I think as long as you are using the correct size tamper and you are tamping enough, where if you tip the portafilter over, the coffee shouldn't fall out.
Okay, I see. So it's not so much that you have to get it on like 30 pounds bang on, or else your coffee doesn't taste good or you don't do it properly, right?
No, yeah. So I've seen videos on it where you have people get the kitchen scales or the bathroom scales out. They put the portafilter in and grind the coffee, and then they actually tamp hard, and just to show that, okay, this is 30 pounds of pressure, get used to it. I don't think this is a good way, because it should just come naturally. Like the whole tamping process is something very simple, and you shouldn't need to, it shouldn't be complicated by these kind of things. So I think as long as you're pressing the coffee enough, if you tip the portafilter, over, and it shouldn't fall out. And I think that is the key thing when tamping.
Yeah, and I think I could picture people bringing out the bathroom scales and like putting it onto their kitchen counter, and then 30 pounds, 30 pounds, 30 pounds. And I think that's a bit extreme, but it's a good guideline. I think it's not like a hard and fast rule, and it's good guideline. And if you really want to do that and bring your bathroom scale onto your kitchen counter, you could, just to get an idea of what 30 pounds feels like. However, it's not whether you do 28 or 35 or actually do 24, like you said, it's really about ensuring that the coffee has been packed well enough that it's not loose and it's not falling out of the portafilter, right? And I think the other thing is tamping is not about the amount of pressure that actually has packed to the coffee. It's about ensuring that your bed of coffee is even. It's compact, of course, because you're going to be putting water pressure through that coffee, and also that it's that you're consistent. So maybe you don't know if you're doing 30 pounds of pressure, but if you're doing 32 or 35, as long as you're consistent every time that you're doing it, then that's a way that you can use to measure your results and output from your coffee, from the coffee shot that you pull, right? Because if you're going to be doing 35 one time and then 28 or 24 and then 30 and then 32, you're not being consistent, and the results that you yield from your espresso shot it's going to be different, right? Like when you change your grind size or you change your brew time or whatever your recipe, if your tamping isn't consistent, then you're all over the map. You can't tell like whether the coffee has been better because of your tamping or better because you changed the grind size, right?
Yeah, I think like when it comes, I think when it comes to like when you're tamping, so like let's say if you're tamping 30 pounds, 31, 32, I think it's very negligible. So it's something that wouldn't really affect the shot too much. But however, like as you say, like if you're tamping at 35 pounds of pressure or even 40, then yeah, and then you're being inconsistent, and then that could affect your coffee, so the resulting cup. So I think as I say, as I said before, tamping is something that should be something very straightforward, simple. It shouldn't have these sort of things to complicate the whole tamping process itself.
Yeah, tamping shouldn't be complex. It shouldn't strain your body. You shouldn't be like leaning over the counter with your feet off the ground to tamp your coffee, right? If you do need to do that, then there might be an issue with your grind size or an issue with your machine that is producing too much pressure and your shot is gushing out too fast, right? So yeah, tamping is not a strenuous activity. It's not a strenuous part of making espresso, and neither should it be, right? Like, I mean, it's the point is to stay consistent and ensure that your tamp is even. So meaning that inside the portafilter, there's no, it's completely flat, parallel with the top of the portafilter. It's not slanted in one way, or there's a divot in the middle. So like you said before, you might have a tamp that is too small for your portafilter, and when you go and tamp it, it's not tamping the surrounding edges of the coffee to the portafilter, and therefore you're not creating an even, nice, complete, polished tamp, right? So yeah, and that's very important because let's talk about what can happen if you don't have an even tamp, or you're not consistent, or you're actually tamping too hard. Like, what are some of the things that, for example, if you have too hard of a tamp, like what's going to happen to your shot?
I think if you tamp overly too hard, I think obviously then you would be over compacting your coffee. You are trying to increase the resistance for the water to pass through. And when that happens, then you are going to be extracting the unpleasant compounds of the coffee, which would probably affect the results in the cup. So yeah, so if you tamp too hard, it's going to increase your resistance, and that's going to affect the shot. And saying that, and speaking about if you're tamping uneven, so let's say if you're tamping on a slanted way. So I've got a portafilter here and my tamper, so I could actually demonstrate. So my tamper is going in, so this is straight, so this is nice and flat as far as I could see it. But if I tamp like this, well, I'm not sure if you could see, but if I sort of like slant it like this and I press down, then my coffee is gonna end up sort of looking like a slide, and that's not good because obviously then the lowest point of the coffee bed would that would be the and that would be the and that would be the that would be the lowest resistance for the water to go, because it's gravity, right? So water would be going to the point with the less resistance. So the water would be going there, and most of the extraction would happen there, and that could also affect the results in the cup. So hence it's vital that when you tamp, the tamper is flat, it's level with the rim of the portafilter basket.
Yeah, I think that's more important than getting tamping pressure exactly at 30, right? Is, like I said, making sure that your tamp is even, like your bed of coffee is level, because water will find the least resistant, like the least point of resistance to flow through. And when you have 125, 130 pounds of pressure going through that, 58 mils of diameter of coffee, it's very concentrated, so it will go to like the lowest point, and just your coffee will extract on the lowest point side, and then on the higher point of your coffee bed, it's not extracting that flavor, right? So and it can also lead to, if you're tamping too hard, you're leading to like over extracting your coffee, like your water's like infusing in your coffee too long, because it just can't push through the compacted coffee fast enough, and your water's sitting through there, and you're going to get your yield is going to be under extracted, because you won't get much coffee coming out from the portafilter. But the coffee that does come out might be over extracted because the water has been sitting in there too long, right?
So I think if you then mix it in with the grind size of your coffee, I think it perfectly matches with the tamping, because if your grind size is optimum for the coffee that you're using at the moment, if you're tamping correctly, then your coffee should come out as you would expect, because tamping is still a variable. So it's a variable that it's the most simplest. It's the least one that I feel that would be hard to get wrong, which would be hard to not get wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, you hear it from here. So it's consistency, even tamping pressure, and making sure that you're consistent all the time. So thanks, Alex, for showing us that portafilter and tamp there. Do you have any other tips about whether 30 pounds is a good standard? Like in most cases, like when you were starting out with tamping, like do people mostly do the scale thing and feel what 30 pounds of pressure actually is? And did you do that yourself?
For me, I actually never took my bathroom scales out. Actually, I just went for it. So I just went straight for it. I just thought, okay, I'm just going to tamp. I'm just going to press I'm going to press as hard as I can, but knowing that not as hard that I would be needing to press my arm a bit too hard, if that makes sense. So it's like I'm going to press, but I'm not going to try to engage much of the muscles in my arm. So I don't want to feel tired after pressing, after tamping. So that is my guideline when I come to when I come to tamp. And then usually after tamping, then I would just then I'll just tip my portafilter upside down to see if the coffee falls out. If it falls out, then obviously the coffee isn't compacted enough.
Yeah.
And so, and then I'll need to either make the shot again, which has happened to me before, and like where I'll need to grind again. So yeah, so usually when I just tip the portafilter, sort of like spin the portafilter slowly. Yeah, and then in goes the portafilter.
Yeah, I have a question actually. So, what if you tamp and then you tip your portafilter over slowly and the coffee actually falls back out? And let's just say you catch it in a container and it doesn't fall all over the ground and you can't use it anymore. If you took that coffee ground that came out of the portafilter because you didn't tamp hard enough, and you put it back into the portafilter and you re-tamp it, is that something that's going to change the coffee, and is it ruin the coffee? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I would say, like, if I do manage to catch most of the grinds, usually I would say I would still be able to reuse it. But all that I would do, I'll get a fork, and then I'll just break up all the tamped parts of the coffee. So basically, I'll try to go back to the stage where I have just dozed. So I'll just get a fork and then just stir the coffee, and then just make sure that everything is all fluffy, it's all even, and then I'll go for the tamp. Because overall, like when I had, like if I tipped the portafilter over, it all fell out, but I catched most of it, I would still have lost a bit of that coffee. So it would just save me from having to grind again, because the coffee is still fresh, and because I would have just grinded it. So in my view, it shouldn't affect, but obviously there might still be a slight effect, but not much that would make me wish that I would have grinded again.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So the important thing is that you don't want to retamp coffee that's still compacted, right? Because
No.
and also I think I mean, I've never had to do this, but like I think if you flip the portafilter over and some coffee ground came out, but yet there's still some compacted coffee ground left in your portafilter that it didn't fall out, it's important to also remove that as well, and take a fork to it and redo the whole thing again, right? Because then you don't want to have compacted coffee left over in your portafilter, and then the coffee ground that did fall out, you're fluffing it up and putting it back into your portafilter, retamping, and now you have two different tamping consistencies of your coffee, right? Like your retamp and also the stuff that's been in your, that was left over in your portafilter that didn't fall out the first time, right? So that way you're ensuring that the whole basket of your portafilter is the same tamping consistent pressure, right?
Yep, that's correct. So consistency is the key again. If the consistency in the basket is not there, so your coffee, so the compactness in the compactness of the coffee in the portafilter, if that is not consistent, then obviously that's going to affect your shot, and then it may affect the result in your cup. So basically, so you don't want to tamp coffee that has already been tamped, because that has already been compacted, and you don't want to compact coffee again, because then that's going to increase the resistance in the basket, and the water lights places in the coffee bed which has the less resistance, and so you would have an uneven extraction. Excellent.
Okay. Awesome. I think that's pretty good points that we've had today. Do you have any other comments?
I think just to end off, tamping is something that's straightforward. You shouldn't need to complicate thing. So you don't need to tamp with 30 pounds of pressure. So it's not something that's prescribed. It's as a guideline. Just tamp enough that you like, where you personally feel that that is enough. So for me, I like to tip over the boil filter. If the coffee falls out, then obviously something's wrong. Yeah, so I don't think it's a 30 pounds of pressure. To me, it's not absolutely necessary.
Yeah, and I think it's just one piece of the tamping process. So we can talk about the tamping techniques in another video. So if you liked our video, please like and subscribe. Please feel free to leave any of your questions in the comment section. And thank you, Alex. We'll talk to you guys another day.
See you.